The spoon trembled in Lucy Chen's hand as she brought it to her lips, and in that moment, the entire MasterChef kitchen held its breath. She closed her eyes, concentrated with every fiber of her being, and then slowly set the spoon down without tasting a single thing. When she opened her eyes, tears were streaming down her face, and she whispered four words that would stop Gordon Ramsay mid-sentence and change everything. "I can't taste anything." The cameras kept rolling, but this was no longer about cooking. This was about a 22-year-old culinary student who had fought cancer, survived chemotherapy, and lost something that most chefs would consider more valuable than sight itself, her ability to taste. And what she said next would break the heart of every person in that kitchen. It started as the most exciting mystery box challenge in MasterChef history. The gleaming kitchen buzzed with anticipation as 15 contestants stood behind their stations, silver boxes gleaming under the harsh studio lights. The MasterChef logo cast its warm glow across the polished floors, and Gordon Ramsay stood at the front of the kitchen like a culinary general, his white chef's coat pristine, his energy electric. "Today's mystery box," Gordon announced, his voice carrying across the silent kitchen, "contains ingredients that will test not just your technical skills, but your palate, because great cooking isn't just about technique, it's about understanding flavor, balance, and how each ingredient speaks to the others." Yeah, the contestants nodded eagerly. Mystery box challenges were always nerve-wracking, but they were also opportunities to shine, to show creativity under pressure, to prove you belonged in this kitchen. Lucy Chen stood at Station 12, her long black hair pulled back in a neat bun, her chef's whites immaculate. At 22, she was one of the youngest contestants, but she'd earned her place through weeks of consistent performance. Culinary school had prepared her well. Technically, she was flawless. Her knife skills were pristine, her plating elegant, her understanding of classical techniques impressive. What her fellow contestants didn't know, what the producers didn't know, what even Gordon didn't know, was that Lucy had been cooking blind for the past 8 months. Not blind in the traditional sense, but taste blind, navigating the culinary world through memory, intuition, and a mother's detailed descriptions of what food should taste like. "You may lift your boxes," Gordon commanded. "You have 90 minutes to create a dish that showcases perfect flavor balance. Your time starts now." 15 silver lids lifted simultaneously, revealing an array of premium ingredients: duck breast, exotic mushrooms, baby vegetables, truffle oil, aged cheeses, fresh herbs, the kind of ingredients that made experienced chefs salivate with possibility. Around Lucy, the kitchen exploded into controlled chaos. Contestants grabbed ingredients, their minds racing. Through flavor combinations and techniques, Sarah grabbed the duck breast immediately. She'd been planning a duck dish for weeks. Marcus went straight for the mushrooms, already envisioning an earthy risotto. Lucy stared down at the ingredients, her hands gripping the edge of her station. To everyone watching, she appeared to be strategizing, contemplating her options like any smart chef would do. In reality, she was trying to remember what each ingredient was supposed to taste like. Duck, rich, gamey, fatty. Pears, well with fruit, needs acid to cut through the richness. Mushrooms, earthy, umami, meaty texture. Her mother had described them as tasting like the forest floor, but in the best possible way. Truffle oil, pungent, luxurious, a little goes a long way. Like perfume for food, her mother had said. These weren't her memories. They were borrowed memories, secondhand experiences from a time before chemotherapy had stripped away her ability to actually experience what she was creating. "Lucy!" Gordon's voice cut through her paralysis. He was making his rounds, checking on contestants who seemed stuck. "What's the plan? You're burning time here." Lucy snapped into action, grabbing the duck breast and several accompaniments. "Pan-seared duck with mushroom risotto and truffle oil," she said, her voice steady despite the panic building in her chest. Gordon nodded approvingly. "Beautiful combination. Show me that culinary school training." As Gordon moved on, Lucy began to work. Her knife skills were flawless, muscle memory from thousands of hours of practice. She broke down the duck expertly, seasoned it perfectly, started her risotto base with textbook precision. To anyone watching, she looked like she knew exactly what she was doing. But with every step, the gaps in her understanding became more terrifying. How much salt was enough? How could she tell when the duck was perfectly cooked without being able to taste the difference between rare and medium? How could she balance the richness of the truffle oil without being able to detect when it became overpowering? She cooked by memory, by technique, by everything except the one sense that mattered most. 45 minutes in, disaster struck. Lucy was stirring her risotto when she realized something was wrong. The consistency looked right, the color was perfect, but she needed to taste it to adjust the seasoning. She picked up a clean spoon, loaded it with the creamy rice, and brought it to her mouth. Nothing. Not just it needs more salt. Nothing. Complete, absolute nothing. She might as well have been eating cardboard. Panic flooded her system. She tried again, this time with a larger spoonful, concentrating harder, willing her damaged taste buds to give her something, anything to work with. Still nothing. Around her, the kitchen buzzed with activity. She could hear other contestants tasting, adjusting, perfecting their dishes based on what their palates told them. The one thing she couldn't do. Her hands started to shake. The spoon clattered against the pan as she stirred the risotto, trying to hide her growing desperation. She moved to the duck, which was resting after being perfectly seared. She knew it looked right, the golden brown crust, the slight give that indicated perfect medium rare. But looks weren't enough. Not here, not in this kitchen where flavor was everything. 30 minutes remaining, Gordon announced from across the kitchen. Lucy tried to rally. She began plating, using every visual cue she'd learned in culinary school. The duck was sliced to reveal a perfect pink interior. The risotto was creamy and properly bound. The microgreens were artfully arranged. The truffle oil was drizzled with the precision of a master. It looked perfect. It looked like something that belonged on a five-star restaurant table, but Lucy had no idea if it tasted like anything more than expensive cardboard. 15 minutes. Other contestants were in their final stages, tasting frantically, making last-minute adjustments. Lucy could only watch, feeling more isolated than she'd ever felt in her life. She was surrounded by 15 of the most talented home cooks in America, and she was the only one who couldn't do the one thing that mattered most. That's when the tears started. At first, just a few drops that she quickly wiped away with her sleeve, but as the final minutes ticked down, as she watched her fellow contestants confidently tweaking their dishes based on taste after taste after taste, the tears came faster. 5 minutes! Start thinking about your final plating! Lucy looked down at her dish. Technically perfect, visually stunning, potentially flavorless. She picked up the spoon one more time, loaded it with risotto, and brought it to her mouth. She closed her eyes, concentrated with every fiber of her being, tried to will her damaged taste buds back to life. Nothing. The spoon clattered to her station as Lucy's composure finally cracked completely. The tears came in earnest now, and with them, a sound that cut through the kitchen noise like a knife, a sob of pure desperation. "Time's up! Hands up! Step back!" But Lucy couldn't step back. She stood at her station, tears streaming down her face, staring at a dish she'd created but couldn't experience. Gordon, who had been preparing to begin the tasting, noticed the disturbance at Station 12. He walked over quickly, his expression shifting from television host to concerned mentor. "Lucy, what's going on?" Lucy tried to speak, tried to pull herself together, but the words wouldn't come. She just stood there, crying over what looked like a perfect dish, unable to explain the impossible situation she'd been hiding for months. The other contestants had begun to notice. The kitchen, which moments before had been buzzing with post-challenge energy, started to quiet as attention focused on Station 12. "Lucy," Gordon said gently, stepping closer, "talk to me. What's, wrong?" Finally, Lucy found her voice. It was barely above a whisper, but in the growing silence of the kitchen, every word carried like thunder. "I can't taste anything," she said, her voice breaking. "I haven't been able to taste anything for 8 months. The kitchen fell completely silent. Even the background noise of equipment seemed to fade away. Gordon's expression shifted from confusion to shock to something deeper, a recognition of what this confession meant in a kitchen where taste was everything. "What do you mean you can't taste anything?" Gordon asked, his voice gentle but urgent. Lucy wiped her tears with the back of her hand, looking around at the 14 faces now staring at her, with expressions ranging from confusion to dawning horror. "I had leukemia," she said, her voice growing stronger now that the secret was out. "Last year, the chemotherapy saved my life, but it destroyed my taste buds. I can detect some texture, some heat, but actual flavor, it's just gone." The collective gasp that went through the kitchen was audible. Several contestants brought their hands to their mouths in shock. Sarah, the confident home cook from Texas, had tears in her eyes. Marcus, the military veteran who rarely showed emotion, was visibly shaken. Gordon stared at Lucy for a long moment, processing not just her words, but the magnitude of what she'd been attempting. She'd been competing in the most demanding culinary competition in America, without the one sense that every other contestant took for granted. "Lucy," Gordon said slowly, "how have you been cooking? How have you been getting this far?" Lucy's answer would haunt everyone in that kitchen for the rest of their lives. "I cook by memory," she said, tears still streaming, but her voice steadier now. "I remember what things are supposed to taste like from before I got sick, and my mother, she sits with me every night and describes what my food tastes like. She tells me if it needs more salt, if the acids are balanced, if the flavors work together." The camera caught Gordon's face in that moment, the exact second when his professional mask completely dropped. This wasn't the television Gordon Ramsay anymore. This was a father, a mentor, a human being confronted with courage so profound it defied comprehension. "Your mother tastes your food?" Gordon asked. "Every single dish," Lucy nodded. "She's never cooked professionally, but she has an incredible palate. She describes flavors to me like she's painting pictures with words. This needs brightness, like the first day of spring. The richness is hiding the vegetables. They need to sing louder." She's been my tongue for 8 months. Behind the scenes, the production team was frantically whispering into their headsets. This wasn't typical cooking competition drama. This was something unprecedented, something that transcended television entirely. Gordon looked around the kitchen at the other contestants, all of whom were now openly emotional. Then he did something that had never happened in MasterChef history. "Stop the cameras," he said quietly. "Gordon, we're in the middle of—" a producer started to say. "I said stop the cameras," Gordon repeated, his voice carrying absolute authority. "Right now." For 30 seconds, the MasterChef kitchen existed outside of television. No cameras, no production, no show. Just 16 people grappling with a revelation that challenged everything they thought they knew about cooking, about courage, about what it meant to pursue your dreams against impossible odds. When the cameras resumed rolling, Gordon was standing next to Lucy's station, and something fundamental had changed in the kitchen's atmosphere. "Lucy," Gordon said, his voice carrying across the silent kitchen, "what you've just told us is the most extraordinary thing I've heard in my entire culinary career." He picked up her spoon and took a bite of her risotto. His expression was thoughtful, professional, but also deeply moved. "This risotto is perfectly seasoned," he said. "The duck is cooked to absolute perfection. The truffle oil is balanced beautifully." He set down the spoon and looked directly at Lucy. "You created a restaurant-quality dish without being able to taste a single component." Lucy's tears were flowing freely now, but they were different tears. Not the tears of desperation from before, but tears of recognition, of validation, of relief that her secret was finally out. "But more than that," Gordon continued, turning to address the entire kitchen, "you've just taught all of us something about what it really means to be a chef. Cooking isn't just about taste. It's about memory, intuition, love, and an understanding of ingredients that goes deeper than any single sense." He turned back to Lucy. "Your mother sounds like an incredible woman." "She is," Lucy said, smiling through her tears. "She's been my partner in this whole journey. Every late-night practice session, every dish I've made, we've done it together. Gordon was quiet for a moment, then made another decision that defied every protocol of competitive cooking television. "I want to meet her," he said, "right now." The production team scrambled as Gordon pulled out his phone. Within minutes, they had Lucy's mother, Sandra Chen, on FaceTime from their small apartment in San Francisco. Sandra appeared on the screen, and immediately her eyes filled with tears when she saw her daughter crying in the MasterChef kitchen. "Lucy, baby, what happened?" "I told them, Mom," Lucy said, holding Gordon's phone so everyone could see. "I told them about the cancer, about not being able to taste." Sandra's hand went to her mouth, understanding immediately what this meant. Her daughter's secret, their secret, was out. Gordon took the phone from Lucy. "Mrs. Chen, this is Gordon Ramsay. I need you to know that your daughter is the most remarkable contestant I've ever met. And you're the reason she's been able to compete at this level." Sandra began crying harder. "She's so talented, Mr. Ramsay. Even before she got sick, she was the most dedicated student in her culinary program. When the chemo took away her taste, I thought her dreams were over, but she refused to give up. She's been cooking with your palate," Gordon said. "You've been her partner in this competition." "We're a team," Sandra nodded. "We've always been a team." Gordon handed the phone back to Lucy, and mother and daughter shared a moment that transcended the competition, the kitchen, the cameras capturing every second. "I'm so proud of you," Sandra whispered, "so proud that you had the courage to tell them." When the call ended, Gordon addressed the entire kitchen one more time. "What happened here today changes how I think about cooking," he said. "Lucy has shown us that being a great chef isn't just about having a perfect palate. It's about understanding ingredients, respecting techniques, and cooking with so much love and dedication that you can create beautiful food even when the most fundamental tool has been taken away from you." He walked back to Lucy's station and picked up her dish again. "This dish," he said, taking another bite, "tastes like courage. It tastes like determination. It tastes like the kind of love between a mother and daughter that can overcome anything." The kitchen erupted in applause, but it wasn't the typical competition applause. Every contestant was crying now, moved by Lucy's story and her incredible resilience. They surrounded her station, offering hugs, words of encouragement, expressions of awe at what she'd accomplished. Gordon held up his hand for silence. "Lucy, you're safe tonight. More than safe. You've earned your place in this kitchen in a way that none of us could have imagined. But more importantly, you've reminded all of us why we cook in the first place." The episode, when it aired, became the most watched MasterChef episode in television history, not because of drama or conflict, but because viewers witnessed something authentic and profound: a young woman's refusal to let cancer steal her dreams, and a mother's love that transcended every obstacle. Lucy went on to make it to the final four, cooking every dish with her mother's remote guidance and her own incredible technical skills. She never regained her sense of taste, but she proved that great cooking comes from the heart, not just the palate. After the show, Gordon helped Lucy and her mother open a small restaurant in San Francisco, where Sandra works as the official taster and Lucy creates dishes that tell stories through texture, temperature, and visual beauty. They call it Memory Lane, and every dish on the menu comes with a story about what it's supposed to taste like. The wooden spoon that trembled in Lucy's hand that day now hangs in their restaurant kitchen, along with a photo of the MasterChef kitchen and a simple sign: "Great cooking comes from love, not just taste." Because that's what Gordon Ramsay learned that day, that sometimes the most extraordinary chefs are the ones who find ways to create magic even when the odds seem impossible. And sometimes the most beautiful dishes are the ones that taste like courage, determination, and a mother's unwavering love.